All right. So at the time, there was no sense of religious freedom in the 1850s. Is it difficult to compare different ages in regards to religious freedom?
First off, shout out to Period 2. What's up, guys? What's up, Miss Day? Uh, yes, you have to compare religious freedom, persecution between different times because the belief from the Catholic Church or the Catholic teaching never changes. However, the application of the teaching may be interpreted differently, right? So, for example, persecution. Back in the days, okay, Christians were very much persecuted for their faith. Does it happen as much as it does today? Not necessarily in that form of mass killing or the Colosseum in Rome, for example, but it has to be taken into consideration because, again, the interpretation of different times. And so, if you're talking about persecution of uh, the Quakers, for example, right? Correct? By the
Yes.
Puritans. I mean, what were they trying to do? They were trying to preserve something good, which was their people, their traditions, their cultures, their faith, if you will. And so, how do you rid of a particular group that is trying to invade or take over what you believe in? Well, by killing. And they thought that that was the right thing to do at the time. But again, I mean, different times, different scenarios, things change. Nowadays, if you had an application of immigrants, for example, of a different faith religion, okay, coming into a predominant Catholic country or nation or land, the proper way to uh, rid them or stop them from infiltrating, you could say, your religion is not necessarily by killing, but there's many different ways. So again, to answer it in short, yes, it does change with time.
So in this time period, why were Catholics considered witches?
I would say Catholics were considered witches again because of the indifference in agreement of rituals, rites, traditions. Okay, you have forms of worship in the church or rituals, right, that were pertained to the Catholic faith, but those who are outside of the Catholic faith might view that as witchcraft, okay, a form of evil, right, a form of spirituality that could invoke evil, that could invoke Satan. But we know that the reality of God, okay, and the reality of evil, Satan, the devil, is both very real. But just because you invoke something spiritual in a practice, in a worship, does not necessarily make it, witchcraft. And so, again, this was a negative connotation, a negative label, okay, against Catholics. But we know that at the end of the day, what Catholics believe in, our form of worship, our form of practices, our rituals, our rites, are not to be considered witchcraft, but rather it's pertaining to something above, right? Something holy, something Christ like, something good, something that pertains to God. But if you are disagreeing with these things, then it's very easy for people to label other people, as witches. So it was
Last
unfortunate. It's
last
unfortunate.
question. Why would Hawthorne include the pastor's affair with Hester in your eyes?
Why would he include that affair?
Yes.
Um, to make a point. I mean, you tell me. Was the author in favor of Catholics of the time, Quakers?
He was in favor of the Puritans. He grew up from a very strict Puritan household, but he wanted to turn away from that.
Okay, well, I mean, what is made pure is something that's not scandalous, right? So, I mean, to include it is to make a point, to say uh, this is something that should not be supported, it should be condoned. Um, but if you're tying it to a religious context today, I mean, we talk about affairs, okay? Affairs is not just affiliated with relationships, not just with marriages, okay? A husband and a wife. I mean, we use that in our common language, but one could have a quote unquote affair, okay, with a friend, right? When you backstab somebody, an affair through a relationship that's not faithful, okay? It doesn't revolve around fidelity, commitment, loyalty, and so I think for him to include the story is to make a point that all of us are vulnerable, and when we are in situations, in cases of affair, it brings out an ugly side, a form of evil. Okay, but at the end of the day, you know, what we support in the religious context is faithfulness. You know, God in time in the Bible always refers to his faithfulness to his people. All right, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, that God will be faithful under one condition, that they commit to God themselves. And so a lesson could be learned, definitely. The distortion of affairs, of dishonesty, but also what does it mean to be faithful in our day and age? What does it mean to commit until the end? What does it mean to be loyal until the end? Not just when it's convenient for you, but when it's not convenient for you and you choose to remain faithful, to be honest, to be true to whomever that is.
All right. Thank you, Brother James.
Okay, A plus. Peace.